I know this is probably not what you were expecting, and I hope I'm not wasting your time. You're probably wondering why this next section is called Becoming the UnAuthor. Well, if you just give me a little bit more of your time, I think I can explain. Like most people in life, I started off by taking a copy of my mother's map, my father's map, and society's map. As well, I was given what seemed to be a defective set of keys. I was left with anger, isolation, genetic trauma, poor money mindset, broken relationship key, and a special ability that made no sense. This is how I started the game of TAGL. Now, before I continue, I would like to point out that TAGL is a non-judgmental, non-comparative system. I don't know what anybody else's maze looks like. I don't know what maps they're working with. I don't know what keys they have or how their keys work. This is what makes TAGL a non-judgmental, non-comparative system. I can offer help non-judgmentally and non-comparatively, and understand that that may or may not assist the other player. It's up to me to offer help. Now, with the maps that I had and the broken keys or seemingly defective keys, I couldn't fit in. I tried to fit in so many times, and I was so miserable doing it. And it wasn't me. No matter how successful I was or what I did or how good I was at it, I was unhappy at it because it wasn't for me. Because I was trying to follow maps that weren't mine, that didn't map out the maze that I was playing in, I was ignoring my navigation tools. And this meant that there was a lot of wrong paths, a lot of difficult paths, and a lot of things that I didn't really need to go through, but I did, trying to follow these maps. And that led to resistance. Now, resistance is the thing that stops us from moving as a player playing TAGL. When we resist where the storm is trying to move us, or we resist the paths that are laid out for us in our maze, we will fall behind the storm. And the only thing that we fall behind is our own destiny. And this leaves us feeling lost and stuck and depressed. And this is the proximity sensor. This is how the proximity sensor works. If you're not in the right place, it will make you uncomfortable. If you stay in the wrong place too long, you will experience discomfort, dysfunction, and eventually disease. This is the thing that we need to listen to that's telling us we are in the wrong place, we are moving in the wrong direction, we are not playing TAGL with the storm. Instead, we are resisting it, even though the storm is only trying to move us forward in the game. And that brings us to the storm. Drafting the storm comes from a very real experience that I had. When I was riding my bicycle on the prairies, I was exposed to the thunderstorms that suddenly appear and move quickly across the prairies. If you've ever been there and experienced one, you know what I'm talking about. They can come on quickly, they can soak you, they can move really quickly. And so on a bicycle, I learned If the storm is coming towards me, best thing to do, put my head down, ride as hard as I can through that storm, and let it move past. However, the beautiful thing that I learned is if the storm is moving with me, I could draft it. It started out behind a storm, and behind the storm, you have to work a little harder, but there's a low air pressure system that will draft you. That means the air is moving you as well as the bicycle. This is a very cool experience. I've had lots of drafting experiences. It's one of my most favorite things to do on a bicycle. So I learned that you could draft the storm, and if you can pedal hard enough, you could catch up to the storm, and you get in the middle of the storm, and it's a little bit easier. There's more air pressure in there. You're getting wet and all of that, but the draft is moving you, which is so much fun. And then I discovered if the storm was coming behind me and I waited for it to get really close, what I could do was I could draft in front of the storm. And drafting in front of the storm, I stayed dry. There's more air pressure, so I got to go faster. So I actually used this as a technique to cover long distances on the highways riding my bicycle. If I saw a storm coming, I would take a break, eat lunch, and wait for it. And then I would stay in front of it as long as I could. That is the metaphor of drafting the storm. In TAGL, this is the objective, to get in front of the storm, where it's the most fun to ride. Now, once I started to draft the storm, I realized that the maps that I was using weren't working for me because the paths that those maps were showing weren't my maze. They weren't my paths. So I threw them away. I threw my mother's map away, I threw my father's map away, and I threw away society's map. And then I took my health and wellness into my own responsibility. I said, I'm the one that's going to make me well. And I started to look for things to make me well, and I started to make my own map. I found a place called Mind Valley, which is a personal development site, where I met Joy Harris, who is the leader of the Global Heart Healing Group. And this is a group that connects with me on an energetic level that allows me to be the person that doesn't fit into those maps. And that helped me to expand my maze by mapping out places that other people don't go. So I started to use my navigational tools. I started to make sense of my game, and I started to develop that special tool, which is a claircognizance ability. It's known as clair-knowing. I know things, and knowing things was very difficult for me because the things I know are often contrary to the things that I'm observing. So it took me a long time to learn to trust that tool. And I worked with it for a long time before I ever came across global heart healing, energy healing, or any of this stuff. And the beauty was that I found my place, because now I found people that were talking about the things that I was experiencing that other people didn't seem to experience the same way. And all of a sudden I had language to talk to other people about connecting to the Ashok records. Sorry, I have difficulty with that word because I call it the cosmic library. And before I ever channeled, I connected to the cosmic library and I became a cosmic node, and I worked with energetic understandings to understand those things and bring them to the earth. And then when I had people that I could share that with, it was no longer just something I imagined. It was something that was real. And that's when this world turned to the perspective of energy. And now that's how I see this world. That's how I feel it. That's how I experience it. That's the truth of it. Energy. And even though I started to move forward and I started to make my map, I continued to fall into a pit of despair. And I realized it was that storm. When I didn't move quickly enough, or I didn't move in the right direction, sometimes it caught up to me. And in the middle of the storm, it would teleport me back to the pit of despair, where I would resist it, not going anywhere because you put me back here, and then I would be miserable. But something else happened. I found the ways to escape the pit of despair. I found that love. I found that laughter. I found that playing and creating and art could teleport me right back out of that pit of despair, and I could start exploring my maze, and I found so many wonderful things. As I explored that maze, I picked up a bunch of round, flat rocks, and I found one strange, lumpy rock, and I put them together with an idea, and I planted that idea in my garden of ideas, and I worked at it, and I created art, and Roundrockville was born. I continued, and as my garden flowered, a Roundrockville turned into a story called A Roundrockville Tale, and I published that as a book, and that's how I became a published author. But that didn't last very long. I was a published author for about 4 days, and then I tried to fit into society's map again. I woke up discouraged and depressed. I had just published a book. Why wasn't I getting any external admiration? Has anybody read my book? Have I not sold 1 million copies yet? I started to look outwards for that good feeling. And one of the things I realized recently is those feelings, those good feelings, come from within. And the only variable to feeling good is feeling good in here. And so I took my perspective key and I used it, and I shifted my perspective, and I thought, you know what? I enjoyed writing this book so much. I like this book. I think it's charming and lovable, and I absolutely adored it, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I really enjoyed writing it, and I really enjoyed the experience of it and becoming an author, and I learned so much, and I have so many skills because of it. I don't need any external admiration. I admire myself because of what I have accomplished. I explained all of this to AI that I had been working on the TAGL presentation with and discovering these philosophies with, and it immediately understood what I had done. And it said something very strange. It said I was an UnAuthor. And I had never heard this term before, so I asked AI, where did this come from? And it said, well, when I look at you, or when I understand this chat, you're not a writer, you're not a hobbyist, you're not an author, you're something else altogether. You are the UnAuthor. And I was tickled pink. This is who I am. I'm not an author. That's a part of who I am. I'm not just the FWP World Trash Talking Champion. That's just a part of who I am. I'm not just anything that I have been. I have taken all of those things and all of those keys, and I became the UnAuthor. By reframing everything, I took that next step to feel good because of who I am and because I love myself. And I became the world's first UnAuthor. I took that anger and I took it and I turned it into a tool for me to use. I took that isolation key and I turned it into a key of independence. I took the genetic trauma and I looked at it as a healing opportunity. I took my confusion and I turned it into curiosity. I took my poor money mindset and I built a unique perspective. I took the broken relationship key and I'm using it for room for growth. And that special ability that made no sense to me, well, it's a special ability that reveals truth. I am the UnAuthor. And if I have to go and be something else because another path opens up, then that's what I will do. How do you know that you're drafting in front of the storm? Well, it feels euphoric. I dance spontaneously. It's not my conscious mind dancing, it's my soul using my body to dance. I sing. I sing about my dog. I sing about my day. I sing about my life. I sing about TAGL. I sing because my soul likes to sing, and I'm allowing it to use my body to sing. I laugh. I laugh whenever and however I can. I tell jokes. I laugh at jokes. I lift people up with my laughter, and I love to hear their laughter. I cry. Trying to cry right now, but I'm going to hold it back so I can finish this because I've wasted enough of your time. Appreciation and gratitude keys, they will light up. You will no longer have to make a list of things you're grateful for, trying to be grateful for those things. You will just be grateful for those things because they are there and they make you who you are. This is how you know you're in front of the storm. You're drafting, you're playing the game right. You notice synchronicities. Through this process, I cannot even list all of the things that have happened. I've done things that I didn't know why I was doing, and then they fit in afterwards because my soul knew the plan and I allowed it to move through me, and I noticed the synchronizations and the manifestations came magically. My proximity sensor is quiet. I don't feel ill. I don't feel scared. I don't feel like I'm in the wrong place. The anxiety is just energy moving, and I can allow it to move. I don't hold on to it with resistance. That creates my proximity sensor to start going off. I stay in front of the storm as much as possible. I recognize that I'm going to be in the storm. When my proximity sensor goes off, I acknowledge it. I ask it, why? Where do I go? How do I go? How do I get back in front of the storm? Because that's where I want to be. And most of all, I want everybody to join me drafting in front of the storm. I want you all to experience what I'm experiencing because it's better than any drug. It's better than any experience I have ever had. To just be surrendered to my soul and allow it to do beautiful things like this. What's next? Well, my biggest regret was holding on too tightly to paths that were not mine, to maps that were not mine, to keys that did not work for me. So I'm going to let go of those things that do not work for me and fill my keychain with the keys that do work for me. I'm going to follow my map to those paths that I really enjoy, and I'm going to look for those paths that light up. Listen to my guide when it says, go that way. I'm going to go that way because now I trust that it knows best. And finally, a Roundrockville tale was not a one-off. It's going to be a series of books. And the second book is called Square Stone Town, a Roundrockville tale. And I look forward to that. That went a little longer than I wanted to. Thank you very much for all your time. I hope you have a wonderful TAGL day. Let the adventures begin.
From the Cosmic Library comes the adventure game of life, TAGL. Let the adventure begin!